Pitch to Pro is the official podcast of Ozark United FC.
This will be our platform to tell our story about the club and the special place that we call home, Northwest Arkansas. This is a journey. We want to bring you along for the ride. We'll share what's going on behind the curtain, help educate the community at large about soccer, our league, and give updates on the progress of the club along the way. Together, we'll explore and unpack our journey to professional soccer, the magic that is NWA, our community, and talk all things soccer from on the pitch to behind the scenes, telling the story of our club. Pitch to Pro podcast is proudly sponsored by podcastvideos.com. Podcastvideos.com is Northwest Arkansas's premier podcast recording studio. Equipped with industry-leading equipment, the recording studio and services save you time, money, and hassle. They are dedicated to helping you create, record, and publish high-quality podcasts for your audience. Be sure to check them out today at podcastvideos.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pitch to Pro podcast. I'm your host, Wes Harris, Managing Director for Ozark United FC, Northwest Arkansas's pro soccer club playing in the United Soccer League. Today, I am super happy to welcome back Mr. Nelson Medina, who is the Director of Coaching and Player Development at Arkansas Comets FC, local club here in Northwest Arkansas. Coming back for picking up where we left off of the last episode and conversation, Nelson. Just first, thank you for coming back. Welcome. And I just want to give a quick recap. We kind of talked a little bit more high level, kind of your playing days coming over. Just give people a quick recap on, you first generation American, Portuguese family. Give people a little bit of a quick background on who you are. Very high level recap on what we talked about last time.
Yeah. Just born and raised in San Diego from a Portuguese family, first generation, and just kind of climbed up the player development ranks from playing youth soccer out in San Diego with the Nomads, and then worked my way through the ODP back then, through the Nomads, and then played at Oklahoma City University, and then a little bit of professional ball with the Oklahoma City Slickers and Spirit.
Hey,
USISL. Yeah, there you go. So, back when I was young, but yeah. And then I got involved in coaching at a young age. Even when I was playing, I knew that's what I wanted to do one day. And so here I am, like 30 years later, still coaching. So
yeah. So we talked a little bit more about kind of your background, the game at large in the U.S., how it's evolved, and all the great slate of amazing, incredible soccer tournaments and events that are coming to the U.S. over, already started last summer with Copa America all the way through to potentially Women's World Cup here in 2031 and obviously the coup de grace in 2026 with the FIFA Men's World Cup. But, I want to take this conversation and kind of bring it down to Northwest Arkansas, but bring it down, the lens and the funnel a little bit and talk about our area. How did a kid from San Diego, growing up and playing some incredible soccer, make his way to Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, it's a really crazy story, by the way. And I don't think we have enough time. But yeah, so my wife is from Prairie Grove.
Okay.
Born and raised, graduated from the U of A, summa cum laude.
There you go.
She's a speech pathologist, and I actually met her in Vegas years ago when we were very young.
Okay.
And then we lost touch, and somehow she actually found me on the internet for the club I was coaching with in Vegas, and we just won state. We were going to regionals in Hawaii, and next thing you know, she ends up coming out there, and
wow,
we're married a year later, and 9 months later we have a son.
It was a good trip to Hawaii.
It was a great trip to Hawaii. Good things happen when you're in Hawaii.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's
awesome.
That's what brought me out here a few years later. So this is my second time out here. So
okay.
Yeah, I was here from 2010 through 2014.
Okay.
And so I was the technical director with the Comets back then.
Okay.
And it was a little different back then.
Yeah.
A lot of growth since then. And went back to Vegas, was there for almost 10 years, and we just came back a couple years ago.
That's awesome. So how did you get, you transition from player to coach? How did you said you knew that's what you wanted to do from a young age. Talk about how you kind of found your way and got into coaching. I know you had some great coaches growing up, but talk about that journey.
Yeah, I think my biggest influence was really Brian Harvey, my coach that coached me professionally and at Oklahoma City University. And so he just took me under his wing, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be involved in the game my entire life. I just have so much love and passion for the game. It's just been in my DNA my whole life, coming from a European family. So, he did say, hey, you're not going to make a lot of money doing this.
Yeah.
But if it's what you want to do, and I knew right there and then. So he gave me my first coaching job when I was in school, and then just kind of worked my way through the ranks through U.S. Soccer Federation's education. So started getting all the licenses at my early career, and then finally got my A license back in 2013.
So talk a little bit about that, because there's probably people that may not know about the different classifications within, I know there's a whole other organization, but within U.S. Soccer, what are the different levels? What do they mean at each level that then once you're credentialed at that level, you can go and do?
Yeah, it's changed over the years. So when I first went through it,
as everything does.
Yeah, exactly.
The runaway freight train, if you've listened to the last episode.
Exactly. So it originally was where you would start off with an F, and then you work your way all the way through up to an A. And then those classes were more of a weekend, where you'd spend some time with an instructor, and they'd have a class, and then almost like, soccer for dummies type thing, at a young age. And then you'd have a lot of dads there that would just get involved in the game and had a daughter or son that played and wanted to be able to coach through rec and whatever. So that's how it starts off with those lower license. And then obviously the first national was the D. Mm-hmm. And so, back in the day, if you got a D license, it was actually a national license, and that gave you the opportunity to travel out of state with your club team.
Yeah.
And then the big one came in is with the C, the national C. And so, universities over the years have kind of changed their ways, but at one point it kind of got you into a university, having that kind of education in the game, which they got a lot more functional training, specific detail training, working on a topic, whatever it was, if it's, building out of the back, switching the point of attack, link up play in the final third, whatever it is. So that's kind of where you start to learn your training session, how to run a functional specific session. And then the B, really got you into more professional, and how to deal with professional athletes, that are making way more money than you, and the egos and all that, and how to manage that. That was more like a manager position.
People manager almost.
That's exactly right, yeah. And then the A license really, gave you how to be a leader of the club, maybe even coach a national team. And that's how it all started, back in the day. And now it's changed where they've gotten rid of the E and the F.
Yeah, those are more like the grassroots, if I can speak right.
100%, yeah. And they're online now, which is different, yeah.
Although, because I'm literally in this position now, for anybody looking to go get their D license, I think, unless you can get an exemption from someone at U.S. Soccer, you have to go for your D license, you have to have your 4 grassroots completed, which are available online, but you have to have 2 of them completed in person to be eligible. So even if you've done them, that's what Nelson and I talked the other day off camera, offline, about my coaching journey and me potentially going to get a D license. And this started to come up where I was like, okay, I can just knock out the other 2 online really quick.
Yeah.
But to go for your D, you have to have 2 of your grassroots in person now. Which I know that changes the whole dynamic of the course and is important, especially, most of these are 99% in person from D through A, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's and then once you get up into the A, or I think even the B, where it's more of a like a 6-month education, to where you have to do field session, videotape them, and then send them in to U.S. Soccer, and then they'll send out an instructor to evaluate you. So I think that way is more beneficial for the coach, because now you have more time to study. Where when I did it, you crammed it in like 7 to 9 days,
Crash course.
It was, and you were up all night long, and it was pretty stressful. And I think at the time, what the number was I think like 25% of classes, whatever, you had 50 kids there, coaches would pass. It was just the stress. And I mean, there's great coaches out there that I was with that would go through the course, and they knew it inside and out, and they did well. And then they got on the field session, and they just got nervous and bombed it, and they didn't get their A, which I thought was was wrong on how they did it back then. I think because of that is why they changed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, give people a little bit more time to get comfortable.
Absolutely.
Understand and practice and ask questions.
Yeah, it's about educating people and giving them the knowledge and all that. You know what I mean? It's
You're not
like,
there for the grade, right? You're there to further the game.
That's
and ultimately
exactly
the more
right.
coaches that you can.
That's
get
right. And the more
right?
high-level coaches you have on those green grass fields across this country, the more you're going to develop. Period. Yeah, absolutely.
with the right education, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
man, that's. But yeah, I found that out, and I was like, oh man, now I got to go find out where the grassroots in persons are in North or anywhere close to Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, they don't make it easy. You know what I mean?
They don't, man. I tell you what, some of the, and what we're not sharing too is, especially as you get higher towards those B or A licensed coaches. I mean, you're talking about 1 or 2 a year, and yeah, they're 6 months, but you're going for, 4, 5, 6 weekends out to, San Diego or to Florida or wherever it is that they're, holding it. It's a real commitment.
It gets costly.
Like real commitment on the coach's side once you get, start going down the pathway of D to A, if that's what you want.
Yeah, 100% right.
A lot of clubs and even tournaments now and leagues will require, at the higher levels will require a D license at minimum, because that's the first national standard, right?
Yeah, and I think that's important because you need to have coaches that have an understanding of the game and all that.
Yeah, that know what they're doing.
Oh, 100%. It's just, and then it elevates the game. It elevates the event, the tournament, the showcase, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I know at one point, before ECNL had branched off with the boys and all the different pathways that popped out at one point, I think they were mandating to have a minimum B at one point. That's what they were striving to go.
Yeah.
I don't think they got there because of when COVID hit and all that, and,
Right.
and the DA went crumbling, and then the GA popped up, and all the next pathways. But yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do, and they're really good about educating the coaches, and they have their own coaching education that they have the coaches do every year and upgrade it every year. So I think that's important.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we hope to continue to build and elevate here in NWA as part of our mission. So hopefully there's going to be some more licensed coaches. I don't know about A, man. You're one of few in Arkansas. I don't know the exact numbers I don't want to get caught out here, but few.
Yeah, there's
Few.
not too many out here.
Not that at least that I'm aware of.
But then you get into an area like Dallas or Southern California, they've got a lot of them out there. So that's why the quality is so high.
Yeah. And just like, this isn't a job interview, Nelson, but for our listeners, the fact that he is an A licensed coach, U.S. Soccer A licensed coach, that makes him qualified to coach professionally in the highest levels of the game in the United States. And I think even there's some transferability with UEFA, right?
Yeah,
if you have an A license at a certain time.
That's funny you said that, because I have a really good friend, good buddy of mine that coached with me in Vegas, and he's Portuguese as well, and so he went back to Portugal, and he went there with his A, and he was coaching for a pro team. And once they realized that he only had his UEFA B, he actually was suspended.
Oh no!
Yeah, because they want you to have UEFA A there, which is it's the granddaddy of them all, right?
That's the granddaddy.
And the global.
You have
global
that,
game.
you can go anywhere.
Absolutely.
In the world.
So he's working to get it now, but
okay.
But interesting that
so RA doesn't translate, but they're A.
No, of course. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. Okay, I guess for now, maybe one day
Yeah.
it'll become a global standard somewhere, but
But
at least in the U.S., Mr. Nelson can coach professionally.
it's pretty cool. Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a good certificate to have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to be, that means anything that you're a part of, man. You know that the kids are getting, a great education from someone that's, been trained at the highest levels of the game within the U.S. It's very rare, So to have that, here in NWA, fantastic. So, appreciate everything that you're doing. So let's translate into that. I mean, you've been here. You're a boomerang like me. You were here for a period. You were part of the game. Then you went away for a period, and then you came back. Did you kind of go, holy cow, stuff has changed here now?
Yeah.
When you came back, even in that short amount of time.
It was massive. We would come back every year to see my wife's family for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we got to see some of the development, but to actually be back living here again, it blows my mind still. I mean, just driving through Rogers and seeing the development, and just Rogers alone is just, in the 10 years I was gone, you know. I mean, even a town like Farmington, I mean, the growth there, you know, is just insane. So it's happening everywhere. It's a beautiful place, as everyone knows that comes out here. I still think it's a kept secret.
Hidden gem.
Yeah, definitely. Just absolutely beautiful. But a lot of room to grow still, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think that, you know, as you're building those houses out here, you know, that means families, and that means kids, and that equals soccer players to me. You know?
That's right. It does.
Right.
You know?
So I like to tell some of my friends back home that, you know, Northwest Arkansas kind of reminds me of Dallas when I was younger, you know, as a youth player going out there and playing the Dallas Cup. It's got that, you know, Southern Belle country charm to it, right? And just tons of land. And look what happened to Dallas, how it boomed. And so I'm hoping that's going to happen out here. So that way, you know, we can get a national champion out here. We can have a USL championship out here. We can put kids and players overseas across the pond right here from Northwest Arkansas.
The talent's here, man, and you see it.
Absolutely,
you see it. I mean, there's talent here, and you know, it's part of what we were doing with the U20 boys and helping provide that solution. But I mean, the talent's here.
Yep, just undiscovered. That's all.
We just need to build a pathway. We need to give the right infrastructure and the resources to help drive it and elevate the game and help bring the level of competition that's going to allow them to iron sharpens iron, right?
That's right.
That allows them to continue to get better, to take that next step, right? In a little bit more bigger way than just one every, you know, couple of years. But the talent's here, man. You see it.
It definitely
you see
is. It definitely is. Yeah, I see it on the field, especially on the boys' side. It's especially Springdale and Rogers is saturated with talented players. Really, really do. So, and we've had some really good players. My first time around here, we had some really good players. That were with the Comets that went on and played abroad. So, so yeah, it's here.
It's here. It's been happening for years, and it just, you know, hopefully we can continue to be additive and elevate the game and continue to just raise that level and make it more of a possibility for all those young players, right? That we talked about in the last episode. If you're a player and you're playing World Cup or whatever it is, you know, and you're pointing to your back and saying the name, and you know, you hope one day that can be you. We hope to provide that here.
Just to touch on that, like talking about, you know, that Springdale, Rogers, or I'm sure that those players in Bentonville, they're all over Fayetteville, but it's a hotbed in this area. Are those two towns, and I've always told all my friends back on the West Coast that area, this area, Northwest Arkansas, is a perfect area for an academy. Just because of the amount of talent we have out here that's undiscovered, which gives them a pathway, you know?
And there's not a real close one. Like right now, people are driving to KC.
That's right.
Like if that's the path and they can do it, like that's such a commitment. 3 hours one way for practice, man.
Well, and then being away from home too.
Yeah.
When you end up signing over there, and you're away from your family and friends, and so that's tough too on a young kid.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully we can again, you know, try to develop that pathway. So I mean, that kind of dovetails a little bit into. I mean, what do you think about USL Championship and Super League trying to come to Northwest Arkansas, man? What's that going to do for the area, like the players? What do you think, man?
I think it's awesome. Like I mentioned before, it's prime. It's the perfect timing for it. And, you know, it's so diverse out here. You know,
it is.
I think it's like 60%, if I'm correct, with international.
Not from the area.
Yeah. And so, you know, with the Fortune 500 companies we out here, what they bring in from a standpoint of the diversity, I think definitely have the fan base to support it. You've got you know, educated fans out here that are hungry, they're craving it, they want it. Why drive to Kansas City, you know, when you can have it in your backyard?
Absolutely.
You know, and I think all of Northwest Arkansas is going to rally behind Ozark United. So it's pretty exciting times.
It's kind of that, you know, what I love is about the beautiful game in general. Is it's such a just cut through the anything in life, and it's a unifier. You know, I think it was actually like McConaughey when he started getting involved with Austin. I think he said it beautifully. It was like one of the most globally universal handshakes in the world is dropping a soccer ball at your feet and saying kind of like a head nod, let's go.
Yeah, I remember that quote. And basically he's just saying it just brings everybody together. It's the one game that brings everybody together.
You don't need to know any kind of language. If there's like I could be in, the middle of Africa in a, not know anything and drop a round ball object, on the dirt, grass, wherever I'm at, on a pitch, and not know a language anywhere, and just, hey, let's go.
That's right.
And you can just start playing and having a blast, and you're connecting and making those connections already.
That's right.
So, that's, I think, what I love about what the game can do for this area, and bring together all the different, we're a community of communities, and everybody comes together as a region, but we all still kind of, play in our own sandboxes a little bit. So this can be something, one of the things, right, that occasionally we come together and have something that unites all of us.
Yeah, so, I agree with you. Well said, for sure.
So, and we see it. I mean, we saw it with our U20 boys. We had 9 different high schools represented on the U20 boys academy team from 5 different club teams in the area.
That's pretty awesome.
So cool. So cool to see. I mean, you had kids that had maybe never really spoken to each other, and they played against each other like fierce rivals, right? Like club soccer can be tribal, man. Like you get some rivalries going, which is great.
Yeah.
Right? That builds that competition. But then, now they're teammates. And I mean, you experience this at the professional level, right?
Course,
like as your career goes, you may just have this arch rival, man, and you just go up against this player constantly. And then one day you're finding yourself on, in the locker room with them. Did you ever experience anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's some guy you look across the field and you want to get your studs in there, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you being one of his best friends later on because you're teammates. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the player that you may not want to play against, but you love to play with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So absolutely, it unifies everybody. It really does. So that's very cool. Yeah. So I'm sure those guys were pumped up, and they had a good season this year too.
They did.
Yeah,
made the playoffs as a U20 roster.
Yeah.
In the UPSL. I mean, that's great competition. There's a lot of, you look at some of the resumes of the players that they played against, and there's some like legit pro teams that are on these, some of these other players like Wolves and Tulsa Athletic, and some of these other teams out there, bringing some former pros out there, still playing at an extremely high level. I mean, and to have our boys out there at U20, most of them are still in high school or just graduated, incredible.
Yeah, it's a great experience.
So,
absolutely.
We're going to share more about their experience here now that they're done with their season. We'll have a couple of them on the show here. But talk a little bit about how you've seen the game change in NWA, probably from, I'm imagining, from your first kind of time and then now coming back and being here a few years and kind of where we're going and what you're seeing from the game and the growth there in the area.
Yeah, I think the biggest change is obviously more players are playing the game. Yeah. So, my first time around, there was really only 2 clubs in the area. And now it's grown to, I think, 9 clubs, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what I heard. And then I think from a standpoint from coaching, we've got some good coaches in the area. We got some young coaches that are upcoming, great passion, really good people. And then the other thing is just from standpoint from, basically doing your 2 days a week for an hour and a half, and then playing in the state league and then taking the summer off and taking the winter off, because of where we're at in the weather. That's changed. Like now we're an all year round program. Seems like all the clubs are now all year round. We're out there training in the cold, and then with the pathways that we have here, so now we're training 3 days a week, sometimes playing 3 games in a weekend, especially if you got a showcase or you have an event out of town.
Right.
So now it's changed things. We're starting to develop kids. Not to say that we didn't have really good teams back then, because we did. We had a team here and there, maybe one in Little Rock, a couple up in Northwest Arkansas. Did some good things, some really good teams, but it seems like we're producing better players now. And so it's just evolved,
Yeah.
and it's going to continue to evolve. So I'm pretty excited about where Northwest Arkansas is for sure.
Yeah, I think the level, I wasn't as involved coaching as you were, but I did referee in my first stint here. And even from that standpoint, watching some of the level that's grown and I think your point earlier about making it more of a year-round thing, I think the level of commitment from some of these players, which just helps, grow the talent base too, and the level, right?
100%.
So you're touching the ball more, you're just natural coming to you at your feet, and the ability to dedicate the time, it's just only going to make you better. So it's great to see. It's awesome what you're doing at Comets, especially on the girls' side. I love the development there in the ECNL. It's incredible to have that, pathway started now in NWA, man. But if we could close with one thing, man, what are you looking forward to with the club coming?
I'm looking forward to going and seeing the game and being in that shiny new stadium.
Maybe in the supporter section, being a little rowdy.
You know what I mean? And just seeing the talent and we got to start somewhere. But I'm real excited about that, and just seeing the passion of the community come together and all that. It's pretty exciting because it's like in Vegas. I spent a lot of time in Vegas. I probably spent about 20 years in Vegas coaching.
Mm-hmm.
When the Golden Knights came in the NHL, it was Vegas born was our motto. And that's what I kind of feel like what Ozark United is. It's Northwest Arkansas born. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like the transplant. It's not a USL club that's moving. It's the community's very own professional club. So I think that's really, really cool.
And at this level too, and you've seen it, you've been around. You've got the Vegas Lights out there in the championship. They're so grassroots based, and just so embedded in the community. So I know I keep saying it, but I'm a broken record at this point. So it's fun to hear. We always ask people, what are you excited about? And I think it's just that connection to the club as a pro soccer is just different.
Yeah,
as a fan than these other sports, and I love them, but. For me, I'm biased. I'm a soccer nut, but I can sit here and say that all day. But well, man, thank you so much for just your passion, your dedication to the game, and growing good human beings on and off the pitch. It's incredible what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure, and guys are doing great things. You and Warren and Chris. So we're behind you, man.
Thank you, Nelson. Well, that's it for this episode of Pitch to Pro. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to catch all of our episodes at pitchtopro.com or look for Pitch to Pro on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts for more content. Until next time, cheers, Northwest Arkansas.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pitch to Pro podcast. Be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks for the next installment. And check out the Stoppage Time series for a recap of today's episode. Be sure to find us at Pitch to Pro on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Until next time, Northwest Arkansas, cheers.